All right. Good evening. Once again, you're welcome to the Smart Leader Live. My name is Olatunji Shobodu, and I am your anchor for the Smart Leader Live. The Smart Leader Live is a session that we hold every week, and this is where we discuss issues, vital issues on the subject of leadership. It's a platform that is free for everyone who is interested in the all-important subject of leadership. It is where we bring our issues, our challenges, and we put them on the table, so we can brainstorm, so we can get help, so we can get counsel, so we can expose what we're going through for others as well to benefit from. And it's always a great time coming together, and it's always a great time of learning how to do leadership right. Once again, my name is Olatunji Shobodu, and it's my pleasure and privilege to welcome you all this evening. All right, so today I want to speak to a very interesting issue. It's usually a challenging issue when people discuss the concept of leadership. And I think that it's an issue that requires that we set the records straight. It's an issue that requires that we set the record straight. And what do we mean by setting the record straight? Setting the record straight means that every time people talk about what I'm going to mention, I think that they put information out there that is not quite true. And we will come to that, shortly. And so, if you keep hearing what is gradually becoming almost like a consensus, yet it's misinformation as far as I'm concerned, and I'm going to show why. It becomes important to set the record straight. It becomes important to set record straight. So we're going to be talking about the subject of power and leadership. Power and leadership. Power and leadership. And so what do people typically, talk about when they talk about leadership and power? One of the things that you hear is that, a leader should not lead by authority, by power. The leader should lead by influence, all right? So what essentially they try to tell leaders to do is almost like setting aside your power and authority and leading through influence. So many times you hear that statement, leadership is about influence. Leadership is about influence. And the question is it true that power should not be a vital instrument for doing leadership right? Is it the case that a leader should focus on influence and not power if he or she wants to be effective in their assignment? Is power really the problem of leaders? Because when people talk about, power from that point of view, they make it appear as if power is a problem in the hands of a leader. Is power a problem in the hands of a leader? Does, power pose a challenge to the leader? Does power make it difficult or make a leader, all right, of less value? Does it make a leader less effective if the leader chooses to engage the instrument of power and authority? These are very important issues. These are very important issues. And anyone who teaches leadership and understands leadership from the point of truth, which is what we teach here at Emmet Leadership Academy, must be puzzled all right, must be disturbed actually to hear something like that. And you must be disturbed because we're, toying with a very important aspect of leadership, a very important instrument through which leaders get their job done, and that is power. That is power. And so that's what I want to take some time, to address in the short period that we have to spend together. And I would like to start by submitting that you can't be effective in your role as a leader without power. A leader cannot get his job done without power. So you can't tell a leader not to rely on power or engage or use power when power is vital for the leader to get his job or a job done. Now, we can address this issue from a very basic premise that we know the law of science, the famous law that says everything will remain in a state of, in a stationary state unless and until, all right, power is applied, or force is the other word that is used, or, for this purpose, we would also use strength. That is, if I put anything somewhere and I leave it where it is, I'll be stupid to expect that it will move from its position or anything would happen to it without anybody touching it, without anybody applying a force to it. All right? So in order for change to happen, power is required. From that simple standpoint, when you understand the fact that leadership is about effecting change, then it should be clear that the leader requires power. The leader requires power. If the leader is to bring about the change in the people, the leader requires power. When you are leading, we submit here that your primary impact is expected to be on the people you are leading, on the people who are following you. They are the ones that you are expected to impact. Put differently, they're the ones that you are expected to engage, to work with, to achieve certain kinds of results. But those results will be achieved only after and as you also achieve change in the people themselves. All right? People will not need to follow a leader if the leader has no value to add to them. Now, a leader adding value to the people means that the leader is effecting a change in them. A leader is taking them from where they were and moving them to a higher level. If we go back to the issue, to that law that says you must apply a force or power in order for change to happen, then you and I must admit that in order for a leader, all right, to add value that effects a change in the people, the leader requires power. The leader must apply a force. So it can't be the case that you ask a leader not to rely on power in order to get his job done. Why? Because if his job is to bring about change, transformation, then he requires power in order to make that transformation happen. in order to make that transformation happen. So maybe you have been hearing, maybe you have been told repeatedly, maybe you have read this kind of statement that leadership is influence and all of that stuff. And people don't lead by authority, they don't lead by power, you know, they are supposed to lead by influence. All right. Well, now, I think we can set things in proper perspective and agree that if you cannot, as a leader, apply power or force or authority, then you will be hampered significantly in your ability to deliver on your mandate. All right? In your ability to deliver on your mandate. What we tend to use to do here also is that we borrow a great deal. In fact, we depend heavily on the truth, all right, and the example of the Bible. And, you know, because our focus is on nurturing leadership based on truth. So what's the truth on this issue of power? We must have read, for example, where it is said that they that know their God, they shall be strong, or they shall be powerful, and they shall do exploits. Now, there's a formula in that statement. That formula is very simple. Knowledge. The more you know, the more powerful you become. And the more powerful you are, the more you can achieve results. Okay? So you want to achieve results. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Acquire requisite knowledge. All right? It will give you strength. It will give you power. Engage that power. And you will produce the results that you desire. Okay? You can see the flow that power is required or strength is required in order for you to get results. So again, the same thing with leadership. Power is required in order to produce results. It's actually a standard principle that cuts across everything, every endeavor. Wherever it is that you want to get results, that equation, that process, that principle works. And what is it? Acquire relevant knowledge in order to empower yourself with the ability, with the capacity to get what you want, to realize what you want, to obtain the goal that you want, and exercising that ability or that capacity, you will produce the result that you want. That's how it is. Anything aligns itself with that formula, including leadership and the efforts of any leader. You want to get results. You want to do leadership the way it's supposed to be done. That's the way to go. You need knowledge that empowers you. You need to engage and activate that power in order to produce the result that you want. So when you look at the issue from that point of view as well, you see that if you take power out of the equation, knowledge does not immediately translate into results. No. It is what you do with the knowledge, which is how you unlock the power that is contained in what you know, what you have learned. It's like saying you learn something, but you don't act on it. The power in what you know, what you learned, the power in the knowledge that you acquired is in acting on it. is in acting on it, is in using it. All right. So there is no question about the relevance of power to doing leadership right. Let me showcase another example that many of us, we must have heard about. And we always talk about this concept in leadership, delegation. All right. It means a lot of things, by the way, to different people. But for this purpose, it's basically a leader, all right, assigning part of what the leader should do to one of the subordinates or one of those following, so that they can carry out that assignment. And the leader, of course, supervises and expects that the kind of results he would get doing the same thing, they would also get, or at least it helps the people to build the capacity to be able to get results like he or she can get. And in due course, those people have been developed to have the same capacity or capabilities of the leader, and therefore they can replace the leader someday and sometime in the future. Now, that's a principle, a leadership principle that Jesus himself practiced. And that principle, we saw, he did it twice, almost successively. And for those who are interested, you can read in Luke chapter 9, and you can read also in Luke chapter 10. And so he called his guys, in twos, and we're told that he sent them out to go and get, certain things done in the places where he was going to come. All right. So it's like an advance party, go and start doing the things. There are things that I would come and do, but I have many things, to pay attention to, but I'll meet you out there. Now, did he send them empty-handed? No. Did he empower them? Yes. What are we told he did? We're told that as he gave them the marching order, he gave them power and authority. He gave them power and authority. Question is, so the leader is sending his subordinates to go and accomplish certain tasks on his behalf. And he didn't send them out empty-handed. He empowered them. How? By giving them power and authority. He gave them power and authority. Why did the leader give them power and authority? Because the leader understood that there is no way that they can succeed without power and authority. The leader understood that this is how I get this same thing done. Notice that what the leader was doing was delegating his responsibility. He was delegating his responsibility to his team. And he told us clearly, he gave them power and authority. Now, that seems to me to be quite straightforward. And that's something that is relatable. All of us can relate to it. Although in our own practice, many leaders like to give out responsibility without giving the requisite authority to get it done. And that is selfishness. And that tells you that that leader doesn't know what he or she is doing. Because why hold back the authority, the power, and some of it through knowledge? All right? And you're expecting. So you gave part of your responsibility to your people to go ahead to accomplish, and you refuse to give them the power that they need to accomplish the responsibility. The person doesn't understand what leadership is about and how to use delegation to enhance he or she, his or her effectiveness in leadership. So the point that we're focusing on today is it possible to lead without power? It's impossible to lead without power. It's impossible to lead without authority. If it were possible, then a leader wouldn't give his people, in delegating assignments to them, authority and power. And any true leader, any leader worth his or her salt, any leader who does leadership as it should be done, understands that power and authority, you can't do without them in order to get your job done as a leader. You can't do without them. You can't do without them. It's impossible. It's impossible. I love, one way that, I also draw certain principles, they are foundational and they are very instructive. And they are truth, all right? And you see that one of the ways that leaders effect a change in their people, one of the ways that leaders produce successors out of their people, is that their people must believe in them. Their people must receive them. That is, their people must accept them, acknowledge them as their leaders, believe in them and in the fact that they have value to add to their lives. And that will be expressed by way of the obedience of the people to their leader. How well the people receive the leader's instruction, all right, and how committed they are to their leader. Now, that is the principle. That's actually how to build influence. And you can see that, in a scripture like John 1 and verse 12, where it talks about, it says that he came to his own and his own did not receive him. But to as many as received him, to them he gave what? Power to become the sons of God. Those are not my words. To them he gave power. He said, even to them who believed on his name. So what happens? You see power in the equation. You want to change your people. You want to make your people, all right, a product of your leadership. That's what the sons of God mean. The son of somebody is somebody who has benefited, from that person to the extent that when you look at their lives, they share similar characteristics. That is, the son collected, all right, benefited certain vital attributes from the father, okay? And it happens by the transfer of power. It's a power thing. Power is involved. People don't, like I said, nothing changes without the application of power. People don't change without the application of power. The problem that we have when we talk about power is that we're often, consumed by the dramatic nature of force. We want to see something that shakes, that vibrates, that, is so dramatic. No. When people talk about the fact that knowledge is power, what do you think they're talking about? It doesn't have to be anything dramatic. Knowledge is power because knowledge delivers to you certain principles. And when you use those principles, you will get the results that the principles promise. If a farmer carries a seed and the farmer is going to plant, and the farmer is looking for land, and then the farmer gets to a land and plants the seed and begins to treat the seed, to water the seed, and the crop begins to grow and it begins to nurture it. And he does all of that until harvest. Somebody who is watching him may not understand exactly what he's doing. But what he's doing is that he has learned the principle of how to turn seed into harvest. And all of that exercise is their activities, is putting into action what he has learned. And before you know it, you see him begin to reap harvest. Now, in all of that process, there is no abracadabra. There is no, drama. But you think power is not involved? Of course, power is involved. How does the seed die and translate itself to become a crop and then begins to come out of the soil, and then things begin to happen? Nothing changes without power. The problem when we talk about the concept of power is that we are just focusing on really the abuse of authority. On the abuse of authority. But it has to be settled that the leader needs power. A leader can never succeed without power. If a leader tells you that he or she is succeeding and he or she is not leveraging power, then it's one of a number of things. The leader has a wrong concept of what power is with respect to how you engage it, all right, to achieving the objectives, the leader's objectives, or the leader does not understand what the true objectives of leadership are. Leadership that does not produce change in the people is not leadership. No matter what results a leader gets, if the results do not first show in the people, in the value that the leader has added to the people, the leader is a failure, complete. Because the essence of leadership is not to make profit primarily. The essence of leadership is to produce people who can make profit and in the process develop other people who can make more profit. All right? So the leader produces people who have the same capabilities as he or she has and can achieve greater results. That's why leadership is so profound. That's why it's such an imperative. That's why there is no replacement for it. That's why a nation will not grow. A company will not grow. Nothing will grow without leadership. So leadership, the ability to get the results that leadership connotes, requires power and authority. And I always say to people, why do you think organizations give authority when they appoint people into leadership roles? You think they are stupid? It's because they know that those people in the leadership role, authority is required to get the job done. Authority is required to get the job done. Without authority, you can't get the job done. Let me take some moments and address the dynamics, of power and influence. Because when people make that submission, albeit erroneous, that leadership is influence, a leader should lead by influence, not by power, and all of that stuff. The question that we need to ask is, what if you are given a leadership responsibility today and you have a team? Maybe you have a team of 10 people that report to you. You are presiding over them. How do you lead those people by influence from day one? How do you lead the people who are meeting you for the first time? Maybe they have even heard about you. Great. Maybe in the organization you have a great track record. Fantastic. But when you meet the people in a leadership relationship for the first time, they can be impressed by what they have heard about you. But guess what? They're going to want you to prove it to them. They want you to prove it to them. So, and why would they want you to prove it to them? Because they want to be convinced. They want to be convinced before they commit to you. And the truth is this: until the people believe in you, they will not commit to you. They can follow you. They can obey your instructions. But the commitment will not be there. The fact that I obey your instructions is not because I'm committed to you. It's not because I'm faithful to you. No, it is because you are the one in charge. And guess what? It's because you have power and you have authority. Because if I decide not to obey your instruction, you will react against me. And that reaction would only make sense if it's backed up by power or authority. So what do I say? I say that it takes time to get people to believe in you. It's not a one-day thing. It's not a 2-week thing. It's not even a 1-month thing. It takes time. So how does a leader exercise control while you are trying to earn, all right, the commitment of the people, while you are trying to get the people to believe in you? They must know that you have authority and you can use it to compel them to do what needs to be done. Because in the short run, you need to do your job. Pending when they submit to you, you need to do your job. People don't submit ordinarily. It doesn't matter who you are. Many people have the tendency to rebel. To say, what's he talking about? But what gets them to fall in line, pending when you earn their respect and they can commit to you, is the power and the authority that you muster. Until they commit to you, you can influence them. You know, these sequences, when people talk about it, they don't understand. You can't, how do you influence me as a leader when I don't believe in you? Until I believe in you, until I can trust you, you can't influence me. You can't. And don't think that because I obey your instruction, therefore you are influencing me. No, because I can be obeying your instruction with a rebellious heart. I will be doing it because you said it should be done. I won't do it with the intention of learning anything from it. That's why you find that there are people who work with you for long, and you are wondering, is it that this person has not learned anything from the time that we have been together? Yes, they haven't learned anything. Why? Because they don't believe in you. They have not gotten to the place where they have convinced themselves that you have something to offer them and they should commit to you. When people get to the point where they have that conviction and they commit to you, anything you say to them, you know, they open to commit to you is to open their lives for you to influence them. So the dynamics of influence is not a short-term thing. So what does the leader do while he is still trying to secure the right and the privilege to influence the people that he or she, is supervising? All right? The leader has to find other ways to get them to cooperate. And so the leader has the weapon of what? Power and authority. The thing, however, is this. There are two things that we need to be mindful of that I'd like to leave with us before I round up. And the first is that you are not a true leader if you can't be trusted with power and authority. So you see, the problem isn't power. The problem is that power is an authority is in the hands of people who are not true leaders, who don't have capacity to lead. Why? Because true leaders don't abuse their authority and their power. True leaders understand the place of power and authority, and they know what it is meant for. It's not meant to oppress. It is not meant to show that you are the one in charge. It's not meant so that you can, for self-interest, to serve yourself. It is meant to serve the interest of others. It's meant to serve the interest of others. So I think every time that, people express that concern and make that submission that, a leader should not depend on power, should not use power, should rely on influence and all of that, they're actually not describing a true leader. Why? Because a true leader knows how to use power. A true leader knows not to abuse power. Let me even shock you the more. A true leader knows the dangers of handling power. What do we mean? Now, the reality with power is this, that power corrupts. And when power is absolute, it corrupts absolutely. But what is not mentioned in that statement is this: in whose hands does power corrupt? That statement makes it look as if power corrupts in the hands of everyone. That's not true. That is not true. Why is that not true? Because we have established that every leader needs power to accomplish purpose, to accomplish his or her mandate. But not every leader that has been successful in accomplishing that mandate have experienced the corruption of power. Not every leader has been corrupted by power. Not every leader has misbehaved on account of power. Yet they have made use of power. So power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely in the hands of impostor leaders, in the hands of people who are fake leaders, in the hands of people who present themselves as leaders, but they don't understand what leadership entails. In their hands, power is dangerous. Why? Because it will be misused. They don't know what power is meant to be used for. I'll use a final illustration and I will wrap up. There's something that, everyone knows, that there was a time that, Jesus, and we use Jesus as our role model leader. There was a time that he was tempted. And I don't want to go into details of that temptation. If you are in you can check my YouTube channel. You check my YouTube channel, you would find, I gave a series on that. I think it's there. But I want to talk just about the very first thing that he was tempted with. And I use that encounter to teach the qualities of a true leader, or what qualifies you to be a true leader. And you see that the very first temptation that he faced was to test his ability to properly use power. What do we mean? He was told, a very hungry man who had been fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, very vulnerable at that point, needed to eat, and he had power. And then, somebody, the adversary came and said, look at these stones, turn these stones to bread. All right, since you are hungry and you have the power, you can turn the stones to bread and eat, and your problem is solved. After all, you are the Son of God. Notice, the Son of God is like you are a leader. You have been produced as a successor, okay? And that's what he was told. What do you think the adversary was trying to do? He was trying to mess him up. He was trying to show that you are not a true leader. Because if he had succumbed to that temptation, he would have shown that he was not ready yet to lead. He was not a true leader. Why? True leaders don't abuse their power. They don't use their power to serve their own interest. And you know what he said. And here was a leader, a bona fide successor, who had been trained properly and was ready to lead, and he proved it in this first instance. He said, well, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. What was he saying there? He said it's important, all right, what one is, okay? But it's also important to operate by wisdom. And I have the wisdom, I have the understanding that the power that is in my hands is not meant to serve my purpose. It's not meant for me to use to feed myself, to better my own welfare. And so he did not succumb to the temptation to misuse his power and authority. The very first of three temptations, I can go into the details of what the others remain, but that's not our focus. But look at where that started. Power, the test of your ability to use power and authority. So good leaders understand that power is important, that they understand that they will fail without engaging their power and authority, and they understand how to use power and how to rise above temptations to misuse power. They understand. So that popular statement, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, is not in the hands of everybody. That statement is true, but only in the hands of people who are not properly trained to lead. They are not trained to handle power. Those who are trained to lead, which training must include how to handle power, they don't misbehave when power is given into their hands. And I can tell you one more reason why. We're told of a particular insight. It said, whoever is faithful in little, he will be faithful in much. When people have been trained to use power, all right, when they are not in very, at high levels of responsibility, even when you promote them to higher levels of responsibility, they will not misbehave. They will still be faithful. Why? Because faithfulness at the lower level is an indication of capacity to remain faithful when something bigger is placed in your hands. So when power is placed in your hands and you use it well at your level, when you graduate to a next level, in fact, those who will promote you to a next level, they derive comfort in the fact that when they put power in your hands at the lower level, you handled it, you managed it well. So they are not afraid to put more authority in your hands because they know that you are faithful. You exhibit that character of faithfulness and it will preserve you at a higher level. It is only people without character that are corrupted by power and absolutely corrupted by absolute power. So power is not given for self-interest pursuit. Power is given and is required for the pursuit of the interest of the people that you are supervising. All right? Our power must be used to serve their purpose, which is to add value to their lives, to bring about the transformation that is the promise of your leadership. All right? Essentially, power is given to serve, not the interest of others, not self-interest. But don't make the mistake to think that you can handle power without being trained as a proper leader. If you are not trained on how to handle power, when power is put in your hands, you are going to misbehave. Guaranteed. That does not require prophecy. It doesn't require, I don't need to predict that. That's why, you look at many people who complain, who point accusing fingers, who criticize leaders. Many of them don't understand what they are talking about. Many of them will misbehave more than the people that they are criticizing if they were ever given the kind of power those people are handling. They don't understand what power does. Power is not the kind of thing that you handle. Don't even pray to handle it as attractive as it is without being trained, because it will mess the person up and it can mess up permanently the future of anybody. The corruption of power is real, but power cannot corrupt a true leader. And a true leader is one who has been trained, all right, who has capacity and competence to lead. It is in the hands, is safe in the hands of those who are bona fide successors. Bona fide successors. That means you were trained by a true leader. And you also can go on to train other people as true leaders. So what must you do? Number one, learn the true purpose of power. 2, acquire and build it. You need power. You need power and authority. And surprisingly, the more sustainable, the more sure source, the more reliable source of power is knowledge. Is knowledge. Is knowledge. And if I might say, is knowledge of the truth. Number 3, engage it, use it, put it into action. But ensure, which is number 4, focus the use of power and authority on the right things, on the correct things, on the correct things. And the correct thing is to serve the interest of others, is not to serve your own interest as a leader. The power that you command, whether it is the authority that you are given or the power that derives from the knowledge and the skill that you have, is not for your purpose. Even if it's your gift, is not for your purpose, is not to serve your interest. It is to serve the interest of your role as a leader, and that is the interest of others. That is the interest of others. That's what I'd like to share with you, ladies and gentlemen. For today, I think is a very important, aspect of leadership, and that we set the record straight that influence is good. Leaders ultimately will lead by influence. But before you lead by influence, you need to get your team together. You need to get them, all right, to cooperate with you, all right, in the process. Ultimately, you would convert as many as, are willing to work with you, because your best efforts, there are just some people that will never submit to you as a leader, But that's a different matter, and that's a subject for another day, that phenomenon and how to deal with it. But, all right, these are some of the things that I thought that you should know. There is also a dimension of power that I didn't talk about, which is because in order to serve the interest of others, you need to give yourself. All right, you need it even takes power to put the interest of others above your own. It takes power. All right, in the Bible, it's referred to as the power to lay down and the power to take up again. Is not something that is taken for granted, because what you and I see is that the seed, all right, falls to the ground, but nobody understands that when the seed falls into the ground, it must die in order for anything to happen. It takes power to give yourself away like that, all right? To rubbish yourself completely, to deny yourself completely, so that you can put the interest of your people above yours in order to accomplish the purpose of leadership in their lives. That itself requires power. That itself requires power. Some of that I talk about in my book. I think I talked about it in my book, Does This Offend You? Does This Offend You? I mean, it's a title that whoever is interested, you can search for on Amazon. And I speak in detail about some of those things. The power to lay down. So again, if you can't do that, you can't survive. You can't succeed also as a leader. And so somebody tells us that, you should lead by influence and not, by power. No, they don't understand what they are talking about. What kind of power are we talking about? There are different dimensions, to the power issue. But these are some of the basic principles. And I hope that, they would help you and I to think, more accurately and to conduct, ourselves as leaders more appropriately, okay, so that we don't get unpleasant surprises in the course of carrying out that assignment and mandate. All right, thank you for listening to me this evening, and thank you for attending. That's what I have, to share with us. I guess the floor is open for those who want to, ask any questions or make any additional comments, or give me feedback, please. And you can disagree with whatever I've said, you can add to it, but there it is for us to talk about. All right, if I go ahead, I can see your hand. Hello, Ifeanyi, go ahead, sir. Can you hear me?
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me, sir?
We can hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Are you hearing me?
We can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the great lecture. I want to say I've learned a lot. Well, let me chip in this way. I don't know if in your next presentation,
yes,
if you could help with a slide or something that we can take home with? Because it's just been you talking, though we've been learning, but something
Yeah.
that we can like, okay, we're writing, we're taking notes and stuff.
Okay.
It will really help in the next class. You are doing a
Okay.
lot, sir. But let me ask a question.
Yes.
Now, you talked about delegation of power.
Yes.
Talk about a leader delegating authority and at the same time giving that power to those you delegated to.
Yes.
Now, in a situation whereby you are in a set of people, let's assume these persons are underpaid.
Yes.
You are their leader,
Yes.
they are underpaid. And because of that scenario, they have this disgruntled spirit or mindset towards work.
Yes.
And now, as a leader, you try to exercise power. Won't those people feel you are oppressing them? That is one.
Okay.
Number
All right.
two.
Yeah.
Number two.
Yeah.
Now, an organization, and you employed a leader on your behalf. And at the same time, let this divide and rule system, you give this one power, you give the other one power. And what do you think will happen in that kind of organization? What do you think is the negative effect, sir, of that kind of leadership delegation? Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'll start with the first one. Sorry, by the way, I try not to make, this live question and answer session a formal session. Okay, so so that's why I don't do slides and I just speak so that people can listen and take their points and we can discuss. It's meant to be a discussion, but at times I decide to just share like this, when, people are not asking any questions. So that's why you won't find slides here. If I was doing a standard program, yes, you would see slides and all of that. Okay, so the first issue, I understand your point. If the people are not well paid, so how do you use power and authority? Won't they feel that you're oppressing them? Okay, but notice what I said. What I said is that when you are using power, the issue is in whose interest are you using power? You must never be using the power to serve your interest. All right. In that situation, you mustn't come across to the people as all you are trying to do is to achieve results so that you can shine before management, because some leaders do that. So what the people interpret their gestures to mean is that they are using them, all right, to achieve their own purpose. They're using them, as it were, to shine. Okay, that's not what a leader does. And if of course you have been operating in that manner, you are going to have difficulty because they're going to rebel. Nobody wants to be used as a scapegoat. If they do things for you, they will do it with a lot of, reluctance. All right. But if they know that your use of your power and authority is something that will serve their purpose. All right. So take, for example, that, and by the way, one of the most important sources of the power of a leader are the words that the leader speaks. Where the word of the leader is, there is power. The words of the leader. All right. So what kind of words? There are words that you speak. There's a way you speak to people. All right. That they are excited to line up with you, even if there is no money in their pockets. All right. There is a way you speak to people. The fact that you are using your authority doesn't mean that you should insult people, for example. The fact that you are using your authority doesn't mean that you should demean and wash down some people. It doesn't mean that you should talk to people anyhow. A great deal about how and why people submit to you and to your leadership is the quality of what you say. Are your words educative? Are your words pleasant and pleasing to the hearing? Are your words respectful? Are your words honorable? Are your words empowering? You understand? The Bible will talk about, you seasoning your expressions as with salt. What is salt? When you season something with salt, you make it tasty. You make people want to desire it. You make people want to eat it. Think about it. How do you use your words as a leader? It's a great source of power. All right? It's a great source of authority. It isn't until you command somebody to go and to come that you are using your power. No, there is a way I can ask you to do something for me as your leader. You will quickly do it, even if you're unhappy, even if you are not well paid. Why? Because in those words I have spoken to you is respect, is regard, is honor, is education. You understand? These things are not the things that we pay attention to. And that's why some of us feel that, oh, the people are not well paid. After all, the people know that their pay is not in your hands. You understand? Except, of course, if you are like the CEO, you're a member of the board, or you're like the chairman, in which case they believe you can do something about their pay. And even then, you have to explain what is going on. If you explain what is going on, as convincing, as sincerely as you can, people will understand. And when things improve, you also do something about their salary. Not that you will start blowing some grammar again. Okay? Because then you damage, how they will, your reputation. And next time in the future, when you need their cooperation, they will withhold it. Why? Because the ones they regard, they have shown you, the benefit of the doubt they have given you before, you did not repay it. You didn't even justify that you earned it. So that's one of the ways that you can deal with that first, question that you raised. The second question that you raised, my understanding is that you are saying, some people can give authority to their subordinates, so that they can play divide and rule kind of games and stuff. Now, you see, the thing with delegation is this: delegation must not be done to play games. When you see certain things happen, not everybody who sits in a leadership position or role is a leader. Okay? Or let's put it differently, is a true leader. Many people are not trained to be leaders. You don't become a leader. Leaders are not born. Leaders are trained. They are made. You manufacture them, if you like, because you take people and you mold them into leadership material. They don't become leaders because you promoted them from one level to the other. That's what is the mistakes we make day in, day out, even in corporations. You train people to become leaders. So the true leaders are the ones who are trained. And when you are a true leader, you understand the concept of delegation. And that is not just the explanation of it, is also why delegation is necessary, when to engage it, what the contents must be, and what are the dynamics. And so delegation would never be for purposes of divide and rule. A leader who plays divide and rule is a politician, is not a leader. Because why would you play divide and rule? A leader is meant to develop his team into a cohesive team where everyone has the back of each other. And in that team, the leader must have a one-to-one relationship with everyone. It is true that you may be leading many people, but leadership is a one-to-one relationship. It's not a relationship between one person and a group. No. That's where people miss it again. Leadership is a personal work. You can deal with many people as a group, but you must have a direct relationship with each person. Each person must feel a sense of belonging. You must have oversight over each person. You must be very intentional about what you deposit in each person, about the kind of change you bring to bear in the lives of each person. So if you come to the table without understanding, can you be engaging in divide and rule? No. No. I mean, why would you want to divide the team? The essence of giving authority is to help the people get the job done, is not to make the people feel big, just like it's not to make you feel big. It's not to help the people to pursue their interests. Maybe now, because they want to get promotion, they're trying to please the leader, they're trying to play games. That's not it. If anybody does that, they are already telling you that they are not candidates for succession. They won't go very far in the eyes of leaders. So if you have cantankerous leaders who want to play divide and rule, I'm afraid to announce to you, you are under bad leadership. And if there is anything to learn from them, learn that that is not the way to do it. All right? So that when it is your turn, okay, you will do it exactly as it should be done. And there is no way you do it as it should be done that you would not get better results in your people and for the organization than they would ever get. All right? Because there is no way to do you can't do something the wrong way and to get the right results. Usually, what happens is that those results will not be sustainable. So it will be like a flash in the pan. All right? Just like a man who built his house on the sand. I mean, nobody knows that the man built the house on the sand. The structure looked the same as the one that built his house on the rock. They look like the same. But what exposed them is when the wind will come, when the storms will come, when the rain will come. At the end of the day, one will be standing, the other will fall like a pack of cards. So the one who has, followed, cut corners, all right, the results will soon disappear. And then people will wonder, oh, what happened? Oh, the man didn't do the right thing. But the one that looked like a fool, that took a lot of time to build, because guess what? The person who is building on the rock is going to take more time before he completes compared with the person who is building on sand. Because that guy has to dig, has to do his foundation, has to wait for the foundation, to solidify and all of that. But the other one would have already been piling up the blocks and, before you know it, his building is done. So while the two buildings are going up, some people will be saying that one is faster than the other. And that faster one, maybe it might look like the one who knows who is getting the better result. They won't know that the person is cutting corners. But somewhere down the line, push will come to shove. And then, the one who has been cutting corners will be exposed. So who is going to laugh last? The one who is the true leader. So that's what I would say. If you have an institution like that, if you have situations like that, is just, just learn that that person is not delegating the way it should be done. Delegation is simple, maybe in pronunciation or something, but I hope that one day I can teach the details of it so that people really understand what delegation is about. Delegation is not just that you are supervising people. Far from it. Very far from it. And those who know how to do delegation well understand how to manage responsibility along with authority. Okay. And they are not afraid to give it out. But there is a lot that is involved, okay, in that entire process. Okay, so that some things do not go wrong, because things can go wrong as well. Things can go wrong as well. All right, I see. Request the audio record of this meeting because I joined very late. Okay, what I can do, okay, what I would say is that if you joined late, maybe hopefully before close of tomorrow, I would have uploaded this recording on my YouTube channel, so you can get it on my YouTube channel. I don't know how else you can get the audio version, but if I can, you know, maybe I'll send out an email on that and you probably receive it. Otherwise, you probably make do with the audio channel. Maybe now that you mentioned audio, I might consider using it as a podcast or something, and maybe you have access to the audio as well. I guess some people like to have access to the audio so they can listen to it on the go or something like that, or maybe it's easier to share with others. I don't know, but it's okay. I've taken note of that, Reverend. No problem at all. All right. Are there any other issues we need to round up now? I thank everyone. Is there any last issue, any important issue anyone wants to mention before I close? Or you just want to type it in the chat, you can feel free to do that, or it's okay for us to close. All right, so I think it is okay for us to close. So once again, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Enwu Ifeanyi. Thank you, Reverend Olawanyi. Thank you, Mr. Akintola. Thank you for joining us today. I think Mr. Oni also was part of the group today, seemed to have dropped off. It's a pleasure, you know, having you join us. And it's worth every minute, you know, having this discussion. So thank you, and have a great week. And you may be reminded of the fact that I normally have a broadcast. I normally have a live broadcast via my YouTube channel on Thursday mornings and Monday mornings, you know, just a few minutes. If you're interested, you know, just subscribe to my YouTube channel and you get a notification. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. Good night. And God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, God bless you, sir. Thank you.